I'm Natalie D'Adamio. I'm an interdisciplinary artist. I bring the love for all abstraction here, including painting and also thinking of philosophy. That's like what's my most highest interest and energy, and I'm gonna start unpacking that more and more as we go forward on this channel in 2025. But right now, today, I'm gonna work on these blank canvases. Isn't that scary? Maybe you felt intimidated by a blank canvas before, and maybe you're just learning to find your way. And of course, my way might be different from your way, but I'll show you how I get started on these. I currently have a bunch of these going on. This one's pretty much done, and I want to have 8 of these for my solo show coming up in May. And the larger work too. So that's what I'll be doing here. Alright, so this is a 24-inch by 24-inch canvas that I'm just gonna start working on. And in the beginning, I'm not really thinking about much. I want to be able to build the layers. So if you ever had a small drawing practice, there's different ways to stay in our practice. There's different ways to connect the marks to the moment, to the bigger work. And it's really important to stay in your art practice and develop your process and relationship to it. And that's so unique and individual. Although you may get a tip here and get a tip from someone else and all that stuff, which is great to learn. You really want to start to turn it towards yourself. When we face ourselves, we really start to open up to more and more and more. And we're able to explore what works for us. For instance, I like to water this paint down. Sometimes you should only work with thick paint. It's not necessarily true. It's just what you want to do. It's important to realize you might be going for a different kind of feeling in a relationship to how you're viewing the work, how you want to start, what you want to do. There isn't sometimes a lot to starting because you're not thinking as much about anything, or at least that would be the goal. And I want to develop I want to get these layered, and I want to have a lot more interest going on. So the thing is, I need to kind of start somewhere, right? You need to start building the layers in order to kind of find your way as you go. And I'm not really looking for anything in relation to a design or composition right now. And maybe, in relation to color, you could plan it out, or I'm really just feeling what wants to come through. And what I'm going to do is, this is starting one, and then I'm going to work on one that's already a little farther along, and kind of give you a different idea of the different stages. If you've ever looked at how work on the paper and train myself to move on, well, I want to be able to do that in a work on canvas. I want to be able to go in and out, and I want to be able to trust myself, where I'm starting, and where I want to stop. Because sometimes in the resting period, when these things go on and on and on in the layers, you want to be able to say, yeah, that's done. That becomes a very personal, individual. Nobody really can tell you when it's done, but you can learn the rules and principles of color design and all of that good stuff in order to know you're able to access your work better when you have that knowledge. There is something to space within a work, even if there's a lot going on, and contrast and light and dark and all that stuff. There is something to all of that, right? I like to have the rules or the principles or whatever kind of on the back burner in my head. And I really love when the automatism comes forward, which is the automatic, the intuitive. My favorite periods of art making are the, well, anyone that was always going against the rules. So even Matisse, he went against the rules. The Fauvist movement's great. The Surrealists, the Dadas. I like paying attention to who's not really following the rules, but at the same time I don't want to just discredit it either. You know, it's kind of like holding it all very loosely. I just want to say it's important to say that, because like one thing could be more right to you or more wrong, but neither of it is really right or wrong. Because as individual artists and creatives, we're just learning like what is most interesting to us and how are we gonna dive deeper into this exploration. And we're learning to trust ourselves in the process of it all. So I like to work on a table or the floor, and sometimes off of the wall. It just depends. With these, it also depends what I'm going for. If I want to puddle the paint, obviously I don't want to be off of the wall, because it's not gonna work. I gotta get too many drips. Now this is the way I'm starting because this is what I'm desiring. Basically, you just want to build up the layers, you know, and kind of look for like darks and lights, and what's most interesting to you, because over time, which can mean years, it doesn't have to though, but there is something about giving things time and space, and it comes into view and it has more like breathing room, where we learn to kind of see internally what's most interesting to us, and then can kind of move out from there. This is just trim paper. I want to like kind of soak it up. You can get this in the hardware store. It's meant to go on baseboards of your house if you're painting the wall. It's pretty inexpensive. You can also then use it as collage, which is really great. I like a little collage in my work. This is just a pencil, a colored pencil. Now, one thing is, the layer is pretty wet right now. You could, if you want to try to speed it up and you don't have time to wait, you could use a hairdryer. But what is most likely going to happen here in a moment, I'll probably just let this one rest and let it dry and let it like kind of take its own breath. Because I just want to have a nice start, right? It's intimidating. It's intimidating maybe just looking at this blank canvas. So getting any kind of marks on there is a good place to be, right? We don't have, and we know that it's gonna be layered work, so we're not gonna get so hyper focused on what are we doing. We're just really finding the energy and emotionality and the playful curiosity, which requires a lot of letting go. So that's a lot of times we're just in our own way, not just in making a painting, but in living and taking that next step, doing what is really important. Maybe even reconciling something with someone or yourself, it's all about facing it. That's for sure. So I like this one here for now, and I'm gonna bring in one that's I already put the first base layer on. Alright, so this is one that's already had a base layer like that, and it's dry, and it's actually kind of ugly. I don't yesterday I got mad at it because I was like, what is this thing that I just did? But then I just realized, it's just a base layer. But even us artists that have been working for years have opinions about what they've done. That stuff never really goes away. You kind of just learn to realize, I'll just paint over it, right? So that's what we're gonna do here, is kind of give it the next layer. So when you realize that it's gonna take more time, you're not always rushing to the moment. Everything in society tries to rush us to a conclusion. Get that quick fix, get that whatever. But sometimes a painting does take time. With that being said, I do love the first marks in an immediate moment, but I want to tell you that there's different ways to look at your artworks, and there's different kinds of relationships you can build to it. It doesn't have to be just one thing. That's been my biggest breakthrough personally, when I allowed myself all these other opportunities to look at it different ways. So I really love this layered process where I build into it, and I also do that on my paper works. But then I also love exploring what does it mean to let go in the moment and the mark and kind of just trust myself. It's like a training ground, going back and forth. And that's how you kind of gain more confidence. At least that's how it's happened for me. And that's why it's important to do what you're most interested in, what's individual to you. Sometimes you want to break the rule, don't get hung up on it. It's important to learn and let go and learn. But sometimes it's okay to say, oh, I just don't really like that idea, and then you make your own up. That's what being an artist and a creative is all about, is learning how to mix it up. You kind of pick and choose. Oh, I really love this from there, and I like that. I don't really like that idea, and now I'm gonna do this. And then you keep doing that more and more, and then something really starts to develop. So if you're just starting out, know that that's a process and a journey out, right? And even me, I have my own set of challenges now. It never stops. I think one thing I could say about my past is thinking, I'm trying to get this final completion, and then once I get this, everything will be fine and I'll never have a problem in my painting and in life. It just doesn't work that way. There's always a problem to solve, and you could still make a bad painting and have a bad day. You can still make a mistake. It's learning to embrace it all, right? So I'm kind of just responding to what was on the surface, picking up paint, spreading it around, getting a soft pastel and drawing into it. Drawing is really important to me, even in an abstract, non-representational way, because to me the two aren't separate. You know, it's interchangeable, and that's also been game-changing for me when I like develop that for myself on my own. The understanding. So the more you work and the more you learn to pick and choose what's important to you, what's not important to you, and then you'll just do more and more and more of what is the most interesting, and eventually that moves into your kind of visual style. It's easy as a beginner to maybe get hung up on that. And you know, there's always messy middles to everything. Because if you're growing through something, you're gonna have problems. If you're always in your practice, you're eventually gonna hit like a block, and because you're gonna want something different. It's just how things work. So if you can start to wrap your head around that and open your heart a little more to those understandings, you can give yourself some space and some grace, you know, and kind of learn to let it flow. Of course, we're all gonna have way better days and better seasons, but in order to stay in it, right, is you need to get some of those internal feeling states kind of flowing and connected in order to bring it out into the work too, especially if you're looking for like more of this emotional, expressive, raw, intuitive abstraction. You know, and this is how I see it. These are the challenges that I've had, the things that I've learned and overcome to some degree. You know, it's different because it's just going to depend on what you want. I just want to be really clear, this isn't the only way to do it. This is just a way, and a lot of it is kind of ass backwards because I'm the creator here. But you know, you've got to find out what works for you in the end. This is just a like index card that I'm flipping the paint with. I found it works really well because I like the flexibility of it, and I'm looking to kind of obliterate the surface but like keep the underneath, so it has a nice like smooth layer. All of these things though, maybe you wouldn't even want to do this, right? I'm just showing you what I would do, and that's what you want to pay attention to though when you're working away. Maybe you want something completely opposite this, and then that's your thing, right? And you keep doing more of that. Just want to be clear, like there's many ways to do this, and that's what you're kind of looking for, is your individuality that wants to shine through eventually somehow, and that's the practice really, I think, is kind of leaning in and honing in and getting more sensitive to all of that, which that could take time, and that's okay, right? There isn't really a rush. Things try to rush us to places, but sometimes the best thing is to get lost and then come back around, and you're even stronger for it, not just in your art but in living. So sometimes a detour is exactly what you need, even though it might not feel like it though in the moment. So something to keep in mind, you know. So we're always working to come online and kind of align to more and more of ourselves in the art practice and art process. I'm gonna stop here because that feels good. So I hope you enjoyed starting abstract painting with me, and found some tips and tricks along the way there. Remember, you don't have to fear a blank canvas, and you don't have to fear yourself. You might be interested in this video, how to come out of hiding. I know that all too well when it hurts to hide, it hurts to keep it all inside. It's great to let it out. That's why there's art and creativity and learning to show up more and more and face it all in the process.